Red Dead Redemption 2, all captured on the Xbox One X. This is my review of the game. Now, keep in mind I have not done everything in the game. I've got quite a bit left to do, but I believe that's the case with anybody who reviewed this game on day one, and it remains the case with myself. But I've got a lot of time in the game. I want to give my opinion on the game, what I think about the things that this title has achieved, and what I think about the Xbox One X version of the title. So enjoy the magnificent 4K footage from the Xbox One X. Let's get into it. First things first, and you're going to see this on your screen, the visuals of the game are unparalleled when it comes to an open world title on any platform. Keep in mind, I've played all of the biggest and best open world RPGs, open world games, it doesn't matter. Nothing is on Red Dead 2's level. As a matter of fact, I would argue that Red Dead 2 is the best looking game of the generation. That includes exclusives, which is mind-boggling considering it is an open-world game of this magnitude optimized for several different platforms. The amount of detail Rockstar have gotten out of this game is absolutely insane. And word is, Microsoft actually sent people over to work with Rockstar in order to get the most out of the Xbox One X version, which would explain its native 2160 by 3840 resolution, full 4K, all on a $500 console. Very impressive on a game of this fidelity, this magnitude. Now, there are those who have suggested that finally Xbox One X is worth owning after the significant resolution advantage in Red Dead 2 over the PlayStation 4 Pro version. And I would actually disagree. Xbox One X has always had that 50 to 100% resolution boost since its launch in 2017. Some games even take it further, adding 4K assets and an array of other visual effects on top of this significant resolution gulf. Bottom line, Xbox One X has always been doing what it's doing now with Red Dead 2, and I don't think this game alone is worth buying the X over, because every game is better on the X. So get it for every game, not just one game, because they all pull very similar advantages, many with even more advantages than Red Dead 2 on the X has over the PS4 Pro. Now, of course, there's always one or two doubters in the comments when I say this, so I will link the Digital Foundry YouTube channel down below in the description. Go there to check out all of the Xbox One X versus PS4 Pro analysis videos. There you will find Xbox One X has always had a very significant advantage when it comes to these numbers. Physics in the game are absolutely phenomenal, the best on any kind of multi-platform console game I've ever seen. This becomes even more impressive when you consider the amount of complex animations in the game. When all of these things come together, it has to be quite taxing on the console CPU. But they manage nevertheless, and they do it all on an open world game with tons of draw distance and geometry. Quite simply, Rockstar have demonstrated some kind of technical wizardry here that we've never seen before. The game is absolutely astonishing to look at. The physics are absolutely next level. This includes explosions, terrain deformation, and more. All on a massive open world with thousands of lines of dialogue. This is a masterclass example of what can be done on modern consoles. However, all things are not perfect in Red Dead Redemption 2. HDR is not really HDR at all. It is a rudimentary form of SDR to HDR conversion, quote unquote. The experts recommend you turn HDR off for maximum clarity and contrast. Though you may have your own opinions on the implementation, just know that this is not real HDR, it does not exhibit specular highlights or any kind of HDR tone mapping. Maximum brightness output is around 500 nits, which is not bright enough to take advantage of the technology. Nevertheless, this crude version of HDR does not rob me of my experience. The game still looks absolutely phenomenal. So to sum it up, yes, the Xbox One X version of the game looks absolutely insane. PlayStation 4 Pro, however, has a very crude version of checkerboarding. Many people attribute this to Rockstar not knowing how to checkerboard, but at the end of the day, it comes down to PlayStation 4 Pro's bandwidth. There is not enough memory inside of the system to checkerboard this game at a higher quality, starting from a higher base resolution. Therefore, you are checkerboarding from 1440p all the way up to 2160p, which is below Sony's recommended checkerboard checkerboard of 1800p plus. This has caused many PlayStation gamers to notice a dithering effect around objects, and at the end of the day, it just comes across more blurry. Really, I think both versions look great, but if you want the version with more detail, you go with the Xbox One X version. Gunplay in Red Dead 2 feels great, and I actually like the fact that to do a pump action, for instance, it takes another trigger press instead of it being an automatic thing that the game does for you. Guns feel hefty, powerful, sound is absolutely fantastic, and you feel those impacts. Animations for gunplay is really good as well. If you double tap left bumper, for instance, he'll do a little loop-de-loop with his gun there and put it in his holster. Everything lines up. The gun actually goes into the holster. These are the types of things I like, and it all plays into Rockstar's state-of-the-art animation system. I, like many people, do think that Red Dead 2's controls could be a bit more intuitive. For instance, to run in the game by default, you have to hold A. It's very hard to run and aim at the same time in the game, so they do have the option to swap run to the left stick. My question is, why not make this the default? Everybody has swapped this by now, or at least most people, for obvious reasons. Same for looting. To loot some things, you hold X. To loot some things, you hold Y. To loot some things, you hold X, then you hold Y. Things can be confusing when you have to use multiple buttons to do the same thing. These are just small examples of small nitpicks that I would have fixed if I were Rockstar. At the end of the day, controls take a little bit to get used to. Everything is very laced in physics. You feel like you are playing a 200-pound guy, and it all plays into the realism of the game. But some button combinations and mappings could have been much better, and I do recommend changing to the standard FPS button map when starting the game. Customization for Arthur is actually pretty in-depth, and I found myself enjoying this aspect of the game quite a bit, mostly because it's presented at such a high level of detail. Character models look absolutely phenomenal, and when you are able to dress them how you want, look how you want to look in the game, it just adds that much more immersion, to the point of when you actually equip your first set of spurs, you now hear them walking around in the store after you do so. There are a lot of different outfits, jackets, vests, boots, gloves, hats to choose from, and you can actually change the color of a lot of these to suit your taste. They may even add more over time as well. Speaking of time, Arthur's clothes do get dirty over time. Arthur does grow a beard and hair over time. People will actually respond and react to you differently depending on how you look and smell. That is the level of detail on offer here, and you are able to customize Arthur's shave at a barbershop or at Arthur's tent. The same level of detail applies to weapon customizations, going as far as blackening the steel of your shotgun, applying some gold engravings, and extending the barrel. Horses can also be customized. Dreadlocks, long hair, long tails, different colored manes, and more on offer here, along with different saddles and stirrups. There is a ton of detail here, and some of these things do affect stats. Hunting is pretty simple. Use your bow and arrow anytime you can to keep the cleanest possible kill. The better the kill, the more value to the pelt, and the more things you can craft out of it. A bow and arrow is definitely preferable to something like a shotgun that's just going to turn the hide into Swiss cheese and unusable. Skinning animations are extremely intricate, and I'm still in awe every single time I see one. The detail here is staggering. There are a ton of different species in the game, some you will not even see until you get to very specific parts of the map, and each have their own detailed skinning animations. Side missions are a big part of any open world game, in my opinion, and Red Dead Redemption 2 does not disappoint. You may only think you are going out to hunt some bison, but you end up adding another layer to the narrative, to the world. This is one area I am enjoying quite a bit. Rockstar does this brilliantly through dynamic cutscenes and animations. Everything seems custom crafted no matter how little. And while doing things that I thought would be a chore, I then came back from that chore feeling like I learned something new and added to the story of the game. There are a lot of really cool side missions. Something as simple as a house robbery feels like some kind of main story thread in its own little way. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely some less impactful, less significant side activities to take part in, but overall, I am very happy with the side activities that I have found so far. They seem to add and interweave themselves with the story. They add a layer of overlapping narrative and world building that I do not see all that often in games. Very well done here. While you are taking part in all of these different activities, gunplay, exploration, and more, you are usually on your mount, which you can build a bond with. Don't worry, this is not hard or annoying. It occurs naturally through use, and as you feed your horse and groom your horse, which you do not have to do often, this thing learns new tricks and becomes more rideable. It's a pretty interesting mechanic and offers you an incentive not to ramp your horse off of a cliff. Keep in mind, once this thing dies, it's gone. You then have to form a new bond with a new horse. It is recommended to have more than one horse on offer, especially once you have maxed that first bond out. Move on to the second horse and build a bond there as well. Arthur will actually lose and gain weight himself depending on how much you eat. I find myself eating only every few real-world hours, and it doesn't really seem to affect gameplay much at all. You may get a stamina boost or a health boost if you eat more, but it does not ruin the game if you do not. Keep this in mind. So, at the end of the day, this game is absolutely amazing. It is a masterclass example of what a big studio can do with a lot of money and a ton of talent. This is absolutely a 100% buy, a once-in-a-generation experience, and I would actually say it is easily a 9.5 out of 10. Keep in mind, I do not give any game a 10, but it is up there with very petty complaints holding it back. Even still, it proves to be unrivaled this generation in sheer detail and scope. Simple tips would be, swap your controls to the FPS standard. Take your time and explore. Be sure and go to all white cloudy marked locations on your maps. These are side activities. Try some of the camp activities like home robberies. And use your bow and arrow, aim for headshots during hunting for the best quality pelts and more. This is a game that gives you more the more you put into it. So with that considered, take your time, enjoy your experience, do not blow through the main story. That said, guys, let me know what you think down below. Hit that like button if you learned something here today, or if you just enjoyed the video, maybe share this with a buddy or 20. That would be really appreciated. This video took about 7 hours or more to make. So once again, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for sticking in here this long. These are my thoughts on Red Dead Redemption 2, quite possibly one of the best games you will ever play. Also, giving away a copy of Red Dead 2 on Patreon this month. Check out that link down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel as you have. Once more, I'm Dealer. I'm out.